Welcome, everyone, to the Daily Fix. No, I am not by myself tonight, but I am Keith Fleming, the host. This is actually a trio show. It's myself, Kevin Tompkins, who he disappeared and was doing a magician's act to start the show, and he's back.
The calls were sliding.
Pretty good. But normally we should have. I shouldn't say normally because we're now week 6, and this is the 4th week that either myself, you, or Joe Matz has not been on the show. So really, normally it's been 2 of us, but we are going to get hot moving down the stretch, much like your players struggling in fantasy, and all 3 of us will be here. But me and Kevin are going to break down the week 6 DraftKings multi-entry kind of slate. Of course, 1 and 4 p.m. games. I was not here last week fighting the plague, but I know you and my brother Joe the Brain Matz had an unbelievable weeks. The lineup you threw together had Burrow, had a bunch of Ravens and Bengals, and we've been kind of building some good lineups the last few weeks at the end of the show. I hope to do that again tonight, buddy.
Yeah, man. And you know what? Since you didn't do it,
Frozen?
No.
Okay.
Am I here? Am I good? Because I want to hit that intro.
Yeah, you're good. I'm sorry for a second.
I had to.
I don't know if it just I love it. What made me laugh was I don't know if that was just like the computer buffered for a minute, or you just, like a stoic statue that you can be, like all of a sudden there was a pause and you were just so still that you had that thinking man pose going. And I'm like, is he frozen or is he doing the thinking man? And,
I'm just going to do a bit now where I'm like,
great.
To make you think I'm frozen now. I mean, look, the North Dakota internet is in
drama, right? Pause for effect. Man, in this economy, for sure.
Exactly. In any economy.
So again, me and Kevin going to break down week 6. Let's start with the QBs. Get right into it. There's a bunch of guys I want to talk about, but I've got to start here. Do you ever remember a player at $4,000 that you knew was going to start a game at QB? Because that is what Spencer Rattler is this week. I know obviously it's risky. It's a rookie, but we're talking about multi-entry events, the different kind of combos you can do when you're starting a quarterback at 4K. It's a Tampa team last time we saw that gave up 500 yards and 4 touchdowns to Kirk Cousins and my Atlanta Falcons. Do you ever remember a QB at 4K? And are you intrigued at least at playing Rattler this week in MME?
I mean, I will just say that for once, the coaching staff of the New Orleans Saints and the ball knowers are in complete alignment with starting Spencer Rattler. So at least we have that going for us here. I, of course, counting myself and, of course, yourself as the ball knowers, many in the same. I just don't know if I'm intrigued enough. Even it's at home against Tampa. Tampa, is certainly susceptible. But how many Alvin Kamara receptions will it take for him to get over 300 yards and get the bonus? That's what you have to answer. How many Alvin Kamara receptions and how many Juwan Johnson receptions will it take?
You don't think he can throw it down the field, or you think it's pressure?
I think it's the fact that Clint Kubiak maybe wants to hide him a little bit and not put too much on his plate, because I know trust me, we've gotten over the Clint Kubiak needs to be the Chicago Bears head coach that we were talking about in the first couple weeks. But I think he's sharp enough to be like, well, maybe we should ease him in and then put some more on his plate. There's not a lot of coaches that do that. And I feel like
Willis with the Packers, right? Where it's we're not going to ask him to do any more than what he can and try to win.
Right. It's the old Paul Heyman, get rid of the negatives, accentuate the positives. So
bad.
Exactly. But at 4K, you could do a lot putting a 4K quarterback in your.
So is Kamara the stack then? You think that's definitely the stack?
I think that's where you feel the best. If you're putting Kamara in your lineup, if you're trying to you're at least banking on the rushing stuff. I mean, nobody else is really going to get that. And then I think he's probably the safest receiving option. So, I mean, does Chris Olave's brother start banging out tweets again like he did on Monday Night Football? I guess we'll see. But I think that's probably the safest if you are going to play the Saints, to play those two.
All right, another rookie making his first start that I maybe I'm an idiot. I don't know. I know everybody's talking about this New England O-line's bad, and it's not good, but Jacoby Brissett can't move anymore. If you've watched any New England game, this is not the Jacoby Brissett from 4 or 5 years ago that can move around in the pocket. And I think a lot of people are forgetting Drake May can move. Like, he can run. He can actually create plays on the move. I think this Patriots receiving core is better than, like, those weapons are better than what we've seen the first few weeks. And I kind of like May this week, like, especially because you can stack him with Polk and MME, who we've seen his routes run are going up. I know me and you are both very high on his talents. And I mean, you're talking about two guys you can get for, I think it's like under 8,200. That to me gives you a lot of flexibility, a lot of other places. May, again, the upside of the rushing is what I think people are discounting. He's got 16 rushing touchdowns his 2 years at North Carolina, almost 40 yards per game. This is not somebody that just ran a little bit. I mean, that was part of his game.
Yeah, I've been recommending him in redraft just because we know the upside that rushing quarterbacks have, no different in DFS. And, I know the weapons aren't super great there, but I think that he can certainly lift up a guy like Jalen Polk, who we've seen him in the last 2 weeks get 80% of the routes and now full 100% route participation. That's a guy he can lift up. And then it's not like the weapons are boring-ish, but they're not bad. Like, Kendrick Bourne's a professional wide receiver. Demario Douglas is not bad. Hunter Henry's a decent tight end. Like, he's not working with Lil Jordan Humphrey and Van Jefferson.
Two good pass catching backs, to your point. Gibson,
Right.
Stevenson.
Well, Stevenson's
that's right.
out.
Did they rule him out?
I think they did, but Jermichael Hasty should get a bit more run. And trust me, I have been very up on the Jermichael Hasty news because
they did.
I have been up on the Jermichael Hasty news only because I have to start him in Kings Classic this weekend because all of my Vikings, Chiefs, and Dolphins are on bye. So I have been at the forefront of the Jermichael Hasty, the research. I am trusting the science in that one, certainly. But yeah, I do think that Drake May certainly has some upside here, especially with the rushing, but who knows? I mean, he could be the tide that lifts all boats. I mean, that's what we want from a fantasy perspective. And at 5K, I'm much more intrigued about him than I am Spencer Rattler, certainly. I mean, just on the rushing upside alone.
No, I agree with you. Again, it's just crazy because I honestly cannot remember a guy that we knew was going to start like this early in the week and then being $4,000. Now, they could be saying that's because it's Spencer Rattler, who was a 4th round pick making his first start versus a defensive coordinator who has had some success versus rookies in his career.
Yeah.
So, obviously the Lamar Daniels, they're going to be super owned, but I like the Daniel side, believe it or not, more than Lamar, because if I was the Ravens, I would want to run Henry. The Commanders have really struggled with the running this year, but the issue has been their offense is so good, teams can't run on them. We saw it last week with the Ravens where Derrick Henry was salvaged by that 50-yard run, but in his defense, it was like his 10th carry of the game in first and 45 minutes in overtime. Yeah. So I do like that on Daniel's side, especially because I think Washington knows they're going to have to get up. I think for them to win this game, they've got to kind of copy the blueprint of the Bengals. If you look, the Ravens lost, their first 2 games in kind of shootouts, games that they've been able to pound Henry. They've kind of dominated even against good teams. So I do really like Daniels, at least 20 points the last 4. Ravens defense giving up the 3rd most yards per attempt to passing plays. Jane Daniels is 2nd in yards per attempt right now in the NFL at QB. So I do lean slightly Daniels. If you want to say something about those guys, they're kind of smashes, but what guys are you kind of leaning into this week at QB other than obviously we talked about May a little bit?
Well, it's just to attack onto the Daniel stuff. Like, he's someone you almost have to play either naked or with like Terry McLaurin and him only, because he's not bringing any pass catchers along with him. Like we saw last week, Zach Ertz was two catches, 10 yards on 8 targets. Like, he's still, for all the ballyhoo and the stuff that we talk about, Jane Daniels being like a dark horse MVP candidate, he's still a work in progress a little bit with the passing. I mean, we all saw that game against the Bengals where he hit just absolutely dropping the bucket with Terry McLaurin, but those have been fewer and far between, I think, than when we're looking at the totality of his passing. So I do like Daniels there better than Lamar Jackson. You got a $500 salary difference between the two. But yeah, Derrick Henry is the fly in the ointment, because if this game at a 51.5 total, by the way, this game doesn't shoot out, it's because Derrick Henry absolutely obliterates the slate. Like
that's what I'm worried about. Like, I really am. I'm almost leaning to that, at least in some of my cash lineups this week, because I just think that there's just as likely of an outcome that happens, that the Ravens get up and we see what we saw against Buffalo, right? Where they're just like, stop Derrick Henry if you can. And we're just going to get your rookie quarterback, who has been great, but in a situation where we know you're throwing, and we can just, bring the house, do whatever they do. So, the guys in the 6K range, really intriguing. I mean, I still think your guy Love is just starting to get healthy, get moving.
My favorite quarterback is in that range, by the way, Dak Prescott.
Okay.
Like, I will, that's the game I'm playing. If I'm going to play one game and build a lineup off of a game, it's going to be Detroit Dallas, which I think that game is, I believe that's 52.5. Like, trust me, we've been on the search, for these high total games. We had a bunch of them last week. We now have 2 games over 50 points this week. So yeah, Dak Prescott, I think, because Detroit throws to so many guys, because Baltimore has so many guys that, like, Patrick Ricard could score a touchdown. Charlie Kohler could score a touchdown. Washington, for the reasons I just said, you can't bring anybody really with them other than Terry McLaurin that you feel good about. Dallas, with Brandon Cooks being on IR, that's pretty condensed now with the offense toward Lamb, Tolbert, and Ferguson. So if I'm going to put a stack together, like if I want to just game stack this game, it's going to be on the Dak Prescott side. I think that game at home in Dallas versus Detroit's got a decent defense, but we know that they have some offensive capability as well. And that game could be what we saw last week with Baltimore and Cincinnati. That could be a 41-38 game where just it's pinball. Bing, bang, bing, bang, score. And give me, I feel much better about Dak Prescott than I do about Jared Goff. I know the prices aren't that, they're $300 off, but Dallas at home, condensed offense where you can feasibly put in all 3 pass catchers and at least capture the scoring there.
I don't hate that at all. I really like my boy Cousins, 6,200. Yeah. I mean, I get it. Like, he's coming off the monster game. If you look at the numbers, like, yeah, they're 6th in passing. I think it's like 5th in touchdowns. A lot of that came from obviously a 500-yard, 4-touchdown performance. But my thing is, the last 2 games, they're scoring points, 62 points compared to 49 the previous 3. They went for the season, they're throwing at 61% of their offensive snaps. The last 2 weeks, 75%. And you might say Carolina's run defense sucks. Very fair. So did Tampa's. We threw it 58 times compared to 18 rush attempts and a competitive game throughout. So I do think there's something there, not to mention Carolina, 2nd most passing touchdowns allowed, bottom 10 in yards per attempt, opposing QB rating. Big thing for me, passing plays of 20 and 40 yards. And you got Darnell Mooney, who has made a catch of 24 yards or more in 4 straight. I think that is really intriguing as well. We got a question real quick, and then we can finish up QB. Sorry, let me scroll up here. All right. This is pretty easy for me. Bigsby or Allen, Algier and Zamir are on waivers too. I think it's definitely Bigsby, right?
Right, the hot hand. It's Tank Bigsby. Yeah, I don't think even that's a thought right now. Just considering how bad the Jets running backs have been the last 2 games, it's not been great. We still have to see what's going to be happening with Todd Downing now, the play caller. in New York
I
now,
think it's huge
replacing
for
Nathaniel
Brees
Hackett.
workload. Don't you think it's very likely first week? Like, they have not really been making him a focal point. I know he struggled, but I could totally see,
Just the
after Monday
simplification of
night.
everything.
Exactly. Yep. That's what I'm saying.
Well,
Yep.
kind of has to be, because Todd Downing, when he was in Tennessee, was just an abject, horrible offensive coordinator too. So you're not exactly going from like,
And not just because he was drunk. So
no, absolutely.
um,
Was not, yeah. We could not obtain the blood alcohol content, report from that, but we can, make assumptions.
one other QB I want to mention is Justin Fields, 5,800. I keep banging the drum. This is discount. Jaden Daniels, Lamar Jackson, like he has every bit of their upside. Last 3 weeks, 22.4 points per game on DK. That is fourth among the QBs in the main slate. He is $1,500 less than Jaden Daniels, and Daniels is averaging less than 1 point more per game over his last three. And let's be honest, the Raiders D, not very good. Again, I also like the fact that their backs are out, so I just think might be a few more Fields runs, with only Najee Harris being the only real running back that they have this week.
Loosely real, by the way, with Najee
very,
Harris.
very fair with his performance thus far this season.
He's been very Ezekiel Elliott adjacent.
And I'm talking about old Ezekiel Elliott. Any other QBs you like before we move on to the RBs?
I mean, I think, we talked about the top two. We talked about Lamar and Daniels. Those are the top two as far as salary goes. Jalen Hurts is not a bad play there, who probably will come in at a much lower ownership than we think at 7,200. Like just looking at some ownership projections right now, Lamar and Jalen Hurts is second, but I can't see him rising throughout the weekend either. But yeah, Lamar is projected 16% ownership right now. And then a lot of 6%.
Site have May? Because
this is on is on a Rotoballer, by the way.
What's May's at?
Drake Mays is at 2%.
I love it. Okay, so he is, I think, a very good potential MMA.
He might be a good differentiator there.
Yep, I like that a lot, hearing that. All right, before we move on to running back, Charlene has a question. Do we think Michael Pittman is playing tomorrow? If so, she's got to drop Shakira. Why do you have to drop Shakira Wicks, Charlene? Because I don't like dropping either one of those. I guess you got a lot of buys this week. Do you know if Pittman's
we don't have to play him tomorrow, but you do have to play him Sunday. And for that, I mean, I think I'm probably dropping Shakir, honestly.
That's why you're one of the best in the business, Kevin, as you catch the details.
I mean, I'm just, it was low-hanging fruit, but I'm just not a fan of the Bills' passing offense right now, because it spreads with so many guys. It's not very fruitful. Josh Allen was not completed 30% of his passes. We don't even know if he actually, got through concussion protocol or not. That's a deep state secret there. But yeah, I think I'm probably just offensive environment wise. I think I'm probably Shakir. It's a coin flip between the two, because we have to see what's going to go on with Christian Watson. If Christian Watson plays, then we have a question of, is Wicks going to get on the field more than 60% of the routes? Because he mixed it anyway with all four of those guys healthy. But we actually have a question now. If Dobbs is going to be back, Jaden Reed obviously plays in the slot. So Wicks has a job on the outside until Watson comes back. Then it's all hands on deck. We have no idea what's going on. But
I like him this week either way because of the zone. The team plays. Yep. And also, again, they run zone at one of the highest rates in the league. That is what Wicks is just
fourth worst EPA per pass attempt, by the way, the Cardinals are.
Yep. So, again, starting with running backs here, because Mr. Scampers brought this up, and I do not hate this play, especially for MME. Tyler Algier against the Panthers. I was obviously talking about Kirk Cousins. The Panthers are really bad versus the run, and I could see a world where the Falcons get up in this game, and you do see a lot of Tyler Algier, say, in the second half. Or, again, he's been so effective compared to Bijan if they really want to lean into the run, which is, again, like last week, a matchup where they could do that. I do like him at 5,100. I mean, I hate saying this. I like him at 5,100 way more than I do Bijan at his price right now, what I'm seeing.
I just I don't know about. I just don't know. I don't know if I could bring myself. There's good people on both sides, as you like to say here. I just don't know if I could dip that far into the running backs and be confident in a workload. Because even though Tyler Algier, we know he's a good real life running back, it's the workload. He hasn't seen over 40% of snaps all year. He hasn't. I mean, he hasn't had 10 carries all year. Like, we want some sort of projectable volume out of these running backs. And even though we talk about
the Falcons have not been up in a game with, I don't even know if they've been up by more than 6 points this season. And I do think that you're going to see, if they get a big lead, you will see a lot out here. I mean, obviously you're shooting for something that you're begging, but this is MME, and that's why I don't hate it. Right. It's going to be different, and there's a chance that it could go off. But you're completely right that it's a huge gamble, because he's, it's basically like Bucky Irving until we ruled that, Rachaad White's out this week. So now Bucky Irving, right? That is one of the smash plays for me in cash. Are you there in MME, or do you think that he's going to be too owned? What are kind of your thoughts against New Orleans with Bucky? We would think getting a really big snap count, workload, etc.
Yeah, because Sean Tucker has played a lot on special teams. I don't know if he's going to be getting a lot of actual offensive snaps. To eat into Bucky, I could see this game being a lot of passing, like a big pass rate over expected game from Baker Mayfield, and so Bucky ends up with like 12 carries or something like that, which wouldn't be bad. I think he's efficient enough to hit on those 12 carries. It was very telling to see when he fumbled that ball at the end of the fourth quarter, what Bucky Irving did, that they went back to him immediately. And they could have just packed him away in mothballs and just let Rachaad White, rush that away. But, the fact that they went back to him, and now obviously with Rachaad White doubtful, they have to go to Bucky. It's an inevitability at this point. But I don't feel super great about Bucky, even though the price is right. But I don't know if it's a gut thing with New Orleans, but yeah, for MME purposes, yeah, you're looking at a guy that's probably going to be low owned. You're same with Algier, that both of those could absolutely hit. It's just, they're not the most fun clicks to put in your lineup. That's really the thing. With running back, everybody wants the safety and security, and they want to be swaddled in the blanket of Derrick Henry's 25 carries for 120 yards and a touchdown, and they just want to feel good and safe. And I just don't think you get either of that with Bucky Irving and Algier.
So the guys that I can't get enough of, whether it's cash or MME, they just keep ending up either in the running back or flex position. And I'm just rotating them because I like them both equally. Jamar Gibbs at 7K and his counterpart, David Montgomery, at 6,500. Dallas 31st in DVOA versus the run. We saw what the Ravens did to this Dallas team. And I think the Lions learned a lesson versus the Tampa Bay Bucks. And if you look at their response since then, it's like, oh, our strength is we are going to run, and then play action to St. Brown, Jameson, Laporta. And I think these guys are both, Montgomery has scored every single week, like just the safest play in the world. One of the real steals in fantasy football drafts.
That's your SWAT blanket is David Montgomery.
Yep. Exactly. And then Gibbs is, the more upside, more involved in the pass, even though actually Montgomery's been doing well in the passing game here lately too.
Yeah, Gibbs doesn't have he has 20 yards, but he in the touchdown off the hook and lateral, but he doesn't have technically stat sheet wise, he doesn't have a catch or a target.
That's a very good point. We talked about Kamara. If you had to go Kamara, Henry, Barkley, those are the three big dogs. Where do you lean? Because to me, Henry is the one that I think has the highest upside, even with Kamara's potential in the passing game. You could see Henry have a night like he did against Buffalo, but you're really getting me to start. Because I was wondering what's the Rattler plan going to be. I think you're right that this could be a huge, like Kamara. What did he have? Like 60 targets or something stupid the first 4 games last year when he came back.
Yeah, he
I
had
mean,
like 10, 11, 10, 4. Yeah,
yeah,
like he was a literal. I talk about Wandale Robinson being a PPR scam. That was Alvin Kamara
you're
when he
right.
came back last year.
Absolutely. So who do you like out of those three? If you were going to spend up, which one would you take?
I think
I
it
don't want to
probably
disrespect Barkley either with Brown and Smith back, you know.
no. And the thing about Barkley is, Cleveland has been just so bad at generating offense that's the game that I feel like it could be over, and they're running out Kenny Gainwell and Will Shipley,
Yeah.
to just salt the game away. Because Cleveland has been like Deshaun Watson in particular has been all time bad against defenses that he shouldn't be all time bad against, and now he's getting to the good defenses. So now he's getting Philadelphia. I mean, they're certainly better than the defenses they faced, I would say, but yeah, Barkley at the top price tag scares me a little bit. I'm Derrick Henry, I think. I'm Derrick Henry. He feels the best. He gets me leverage on a 51 point over under where people are going to be jamming in Lamar Jackson and Zay Flowers. And then on the other side, Jaden Daniels and Terry McLaurin, that if I just play Derrick Henry, if that game slows down and, it ends up being a 28-13 game, then Derrick Henry's going to have to be a massive part of that. So
Yeah.
I think I'm Derrick Henry, but honorable mention to Alvin Kamara for the reasons we talked about with Spencer Rattler, where I think he could be like 10 plus targets in week 6.
The other guy that I do want to mention, because again, workload kind of in this range, James Conner. Your Packers sometimes struggle with backs. And you just look at it, every week this guy gets 18, 19 rush attempts. He's going to get, 4 to 6 targets. That game, right, could become a shootout, definitely. And I think that Conner is a pretty decent play this week, particularly if, say, you want to run Love and, the Packers receivers where you want to kind of get, both sides of that game. It would be Conner or McBride would be the two guys from the Arizona side that I would be going after.
Yeah, there are a lot of good running backs in like the high 55, the 55 to 65 kind of range. Like Chuba Hubbard's been one of the most efficient backs this season. And I think
ruining my Johnson Brooks shares everywhere. I'm like, shit, is this guy really going to have the job when he gets healthy?
Well, that's what I'm saying is that actually puts some doubt into Carolina knows they're bad. They're going to be bad. Do they redshirt Jonathan Brooks? I think with the way Chuba Hubbard is going, that's a non-zero chance that can happen.
I completely agree. That's a good call.
I mean, Chuba's been fantastic certainly from an efficiency standpoint. I mean, just looking at it right now, he's the 5th highest, has the 5th highest total of how many 40 running backs in rush yards over expected. And then we're looking at like Tony Pollard against the sieve that is the Indianapolis Colts run defense. Like that could be a fun game for Tony Pollard in particular, not for like anybody else in that Tennessee offense.
Other people watching it.
Yeah, that might be one of those games you got to be a total set. The Indianapolis and Tennessee, like that's the game where you're in April and you're like, man, I wish we had football. Like I'm so sick of. Well, I mean,
and then you watch the
Indy and Tennessee
or whatever it's called, and you're like, well, maybe I didn't want this kind. I should have been more specific in what kind of football I wanted.
Like we've been killing for those games in April. And then another one who I think it's a little off the radar because we know Brian Robinson is banged up. Austin Eckler. I think if they're going to find a way to get somebody else involved in that offense that's not a pass catcher, if that's going to be inefficient. Austin Eckler's been actually pretty efficient and it's looking pretty good post-injury. Like he's looking like maybe 2021, 2022 Austin Eckler. And I think that's counts for something when you're looking at cheaper running backs at 5,600. I mean, I don't hate that at all. I like him over, looking at the backs underneath him, Javonte Williams. I like him over Bucky. I like him over Madison, who, it's Alexander Madison. But yeah, I do like Austin Eckler is kind of a really sneaky play too.
No, I like that call. I mean, Washington has proved that they're not afraid to sort of use their passing game at times. It's an extension of their run game. And I do have to give credit to Kingsbury, who I've made fun of a lot. That if you look what he's done the last couple of weeks, like it's pretty impressive the way they're, setting up Daniels to succeed and sort of using these different parts. De'Ami Brown all of a sudden is becoming, this big play guy. I think 2 weeks in a row he's caught like a pass of 40+ yards. I do want to add real quickly on your Tony Pollard, because I got burned a couple of weeks ago in the Packers game, like really burned. He was in 100% of my cash lineups. But you got to not be afraid to get hurt again. You got to put yourself back out there. Colts second most rushing yards allowed. But the big thing for me, 20 receptions to running backs their last 3 games for nearly 200 yards. This is Tony Pollard, who is 5th among running backs in target share. And that's shocking because you think of Tajay Spears as their pass catching back. No, it's Tony Pollard who is.
It hasn't been a 1A, 1B thing in Tennessee. It's been Tony Pollard, like the lead back, and Tajay Spears kind of just taking a little bit off, taking some of the crumbs. And it stinks for Tajay Spears because I think he's way more talented than that. But you can't really say anything because Tony Pollard's been pretty good. And I do also like Daniel Capps. Keep an eye on Washington backup Jeremy McNichols. Certainly. If Brian Robinson's out, McNichols is going to have a little bit of run. I don't know how I feel about that for like MME purposes, but he's probably sitting at 4K, I would say. 4,500. I mean, that's certainly someone you could get like 0.1% rostership on in one of these contests. And if he gets you a touchdown, if he gets you like 10, 12 points, nobody else has him.
I don't like that guy at all because I have Daniels and Robinson in so many leagues, and just bringing another freaking guy around the goal line because he scored 2 weeks in a row just really pissing me off. I got a question.
No, Daniel, you can't take it back. I just talked about him, so now that's out there in the ether. Like, once you say it, and let me. Yeah, once you say it, let me expand on it. Like, that's how the cookie crumbles.
All right. Tyler wants to know, do you start Gibson without Stevenson, Rashad or Ford or Brandon Allen? I do like starting Gibson. Especially to those options. I know Roschon scored in back-to-back games. Jacksonville, not a good run defense, but you got to assume that Gibson's going to get a bigger, workload, volume, etc. And to me, that still matters, especially in a decision like when it's 2 players that you're not really thrilled with either of them. I'm always going to lean towards the one that's going to get the ball more.
Yeah. I could totally see this backfield shaping up to be like Gibson gets 55% of the snaps, Jermichael Hasty gets like 40, because I think they're going to bring up like a Kevin Harris to be the third back. Once, I think he's on the practice squad right now, but they'll probably bring him up for Ramondre. And then Hasty sees like more routes than he probably should. I think they're going to kind of shift those roles. I don't think Gibson's going to be like super fruitful, but I like him better than those options there. What was it? Roschon and Ford and another Braylon Allen. Like, I like him more than any of those other guys.
Cosign. All right, one more question, then we'll get to the wide receivers. He wants to, I guess, trading away Tyreek for Ayuk and Aaron Jones. He has London, Godwin, Wandell, Shaheed, running back. Sorry about Jordan Mason. I'm in the same boat. James Conner, Chase Brown, QB, Mahomes, and Field. Honestly, whether this is a dynasty or not, I know that Tua does want to come back and play. I feel more confident having Ayuk and Aaron Jones the rest of the season than I do Tyreek with. Even if Tua comes back, it's just like one hit. What do you do?
Pop that back up there. I just wanted to see the rest of
the. Yeah.
Because he had Jordan. Because Jordan Mason, now he's got a shoulder, I believe, the AC sprain, which is that's a 1 to 2 week thing. I know Aaron Jones is hurt with a hip injury, and thankfully they hit their bye at the right time with that. I don't hate it. But yeah, the if Tua wants to come back, like, you kind of have to have that in the back of your mind. But you're also, Chase Brown is questionable as well, so you're really kind of behind it with running backs there, especially if that turns into a more than a week long thing. like, I don't hate it because you're getting 2 players, and Brandon Ayuk is at least off the preseason, with his performance last week. And then I know it wasn't like super great this week, but I think I do like getting multiple players in there for time. It's not like you're trading Tyreek for peanuts. You're not trading him for like Trey Sermon and, Darnell Mooney.
And the other good thing is, to your Ayuk point, I think it's really good for Ayuk that Kittle and Debo and them are starting to go off, because defenses have been shading to Ayuk and sort of saying we're going to take away the big play to him. And now that other guys are starting to get off, that'll mean good. The last part of his question was who to flex, Chase Brown or Wan'Dale Robinson, 12-team PPR. For me, that's a question of what do you need? If you think you're going to need a big game with a high ceiling, I go Chase Brown. But if you just, feel pretty good about the matchup as is and you just need the projected points, I mean, Wan'Dale's the PPR cheat code. So I would go Wan'Dale.
Yeah, I would go Wan'Dale too. And at least in that matchup, you can wait because they both play in the same game. So obviously Chase Brown is questionable, but if he's playing, I mean, I think I'm still leaning Wan'Dale. They won't have Malik Neighbors there too. I don't know if Lightning's going to strike twice the way it did against the Seahawks in Seattle, which total like mind fuck right there about how the Giants pulled that one off. But I mean, it's pretty clear that Wan'Dale is a massive part of their offense. Anyway,
and Neighbors is out again too. I forgot to mention.
Yeah, so I think Wan'Dale is like still the PPR scam of our dreams, but has a little bit more upside there without Neighbors.
Like buying a Bible made in China.
Will not. Wan'Dale will never beat those allegations with me.
The wide receiver, are we officially at Tank Dell week? Kevin Tompkins.
Man, as like the preeminent Tank Dell guy, I feel like it's got to come at some point, right? Like, I know he's had a lot. I mean, broken legs are bad per sources, and apparently they aren't great for your role weeks 1 through 5 either. Like, I don't think the price is right to play Tank Dell. If he was like 5,700 or 5,500, I think I would feel a lot better with that. 6,100 is still, I'm looking at guys around him where, okay, maybe I guess I don't feel
6,200. He's actually 6,200.
What did I say?
61.
Close enough. But still, it's $100.
It's $100 I can spend elsewhere for somebody who's scraping the bottom of the barrel. If you ask me,
right,
week to week.
Yeah. But like $200 more, and you get Terry McLaurin. Like, that's you can find $200, somewhere else. I don't know if I can do it this week. I think I would, if I'm going to play that offense. I think Stephon Diggs is the play, even though I think he's going to be a lot less owned at 7,400 than Tank Dell will be at 6,200.
Can I make the case for Dell? And I know obviously it's him and me. It's
absolutely.
Really,
you can.
I'm not actually making a case because he's Dell and it's him and me. But the one game last year without Nico,
the Tank Dell.
I know there was obviously no Stephon Diggs, but the only game last year, 14 targets. He had 6 catches, a touchdown. His last 4 games with 70+% of snaps played, which he has not hit yet this season. Weeks 9 through 12 of 2023, scored at least 17 points in PPR each of those weeks, 2 games of 28 points or more. And his splits versus man have been much better versus zone this year, which is kind of surprising when you think of the kind of receiver Dell is. But anyway, Patriots run man at the 5th highest rate in the NFL. And I got to assume Christian Gonzalez, who is a very good cover corner, is going to be on Stephon Diggs. So if it was ever Dell's week, I think it is this. And Stroud has been pretty good against man as well. I think the real question is the offense going to look like it did last week with no Mixon and no Nico? Because once Nico went out, it was kind of blah. And this is a Buffalo defense that was getting torched even early in that game and the previous couple of weeks.
Yeah, that's a bit concerning too. And then you could also play it the Xavier Hutchinson route too at 3,300. You could also play it because now we've been talking about Dalton Schultz and we've been talking about Cole Kmet being like the same kind of adjacent plays where you have 3 wide receivers and then you're hoping that tight end scores a touchdown. Well, now you're lopping off one of those wide receivers. So I think that play that certainly makes Dalton Schultz look a lot better. And we'll talk about tight ends in a little bit, but I think that puts him in play too. But yeah, for certainly the Christian Gonzalez factor for Diggs certainly weighs into that, where he'll see top corner attention. But I mean, it's just the thing that Tank Dell has not looked like the Tank Dell from last year.
No, he's not.
And I think because he got shot and then also, coming off a broken leg, like
just because he was jealous of Brian Robinson, you got to go and get shot. It's the cool.
Can you imagine if that really became a thing?
A TikTok trend? Like, I'm going to go get shot now.
Yeah. Like I'm going to go, the kids call Plaxicoing. But no, we do not condone anything like that on these or any.
I don't even own a Nerf gun, so I can't say that. Of the expensive wide receivers, I'm intrigued by AJ Brown, who's back, 7,800. Like, I mean, this dude's basically a wide receiver god at this point. Browns run man rate, one of the highest rates in the NFL. Last season, Brown versus man, his target rate was the highest in the NFL, 35.3%. I know he's only played one game this year, but when the Packers ran man, he was targeted on 37% of the Eagles' passing plays. And he's projected, this is why I love him. We're talking MME, 17th most owned wide receiver this week. I feel like he's a discount just in general at his price. But to know that there's going to be 16 receivers more owned than him, yeah, I'm going to have AJ Brown in a good bit of MME lineups.
Yeah, he is going to fall through the cracks, certainly. Definitely like him there. I talked about Dallas and Detroit. Obviously Lamb and Amon-Ra St. Brown are definitely in play. I think so last year was my Tank Dell year where I played him and played him and played him and played him until his salary got too untenable, and then I moved on to somebody else. To the wide receiver that hasn't got to that point yet, and I will still continue playing him, Jayden Reed. Yes. I mean, it seems like, what do we have to do? I mean, at some point he's going to get it to like 76, 7,700. But
have you seen his fantasy points per route run versus zone this year? It's like he's averaging 0.7 points per route run versus zone. Like that is.
Have you seen his splits with Jordan Love?
Yes.
And his splits with Jordan Love are just absolutely insane. Like
Arizona runs zone, by the way, at one of the highest rates in the NFL. Like I'm with Joe Matz talked about, like he loves Reed this week. He thinks, to your point, he is the best bargain of all the receivers, say 6,500 and above. And I mean, that's including some good guys. Like, you can go down to McLaurin, Flower, guys getting big volumes, but Reed, I mean, he's averaging almost 20 points per game. He played 2 games with Malik Willis. I keep wanting to remind people that. And 3 games with a Jordan Love that, maybe 1 game he was fully healthy?
Yeah, like the fact that, we're not seeing any separation from like the other options. Like obviously Dobbs had a suspension. Dontavian Wicks is, dropped his opportunity, pun totally intended. Christian Watson's been hurt. So, like, it's been a really, really clean run out for Jayden Reed because he has been the healthiest. He has been the best. So it makes it very cut and dry for the Packers receivers to where now I think Dontavian Wicks is still a pretty good play because
I agree.
Such a sour consensus right now on Dontavian Wicks.
Isn't it amazing how we turn on people so quickly, man? He got still a bunch of targets. Like, why are we hating?
He led the team in targets and he led the team in air yards. That's part of like my article on Rotoballer. I wrote like a page and a half on Dontavian Wicks saying, look, you lead the team in targets, you lead the team in air yards. That's called offensive intent. The intent of the offense is going toward Dontavian Wicks. And more often than not, he's not gonna drop the ball all the time. Like a team recognizes who their best players are, and they're gonna get the ball to those players. So I don't understand the week to week, the discourse on Dontavian Wicks, he's still 5,200. The only thing that you can really knock him for this specific week is if Christian Watson.
Yeah,
because like we said before, if Watson plays, then we have to actually ask ourselves the question of, well, how many routes is he going to run? Yeah, that's the question. But if Watson's out, I still think Wicks is like one of the best plays on the slate.
I completely agree. I do. And I mean, I probably will run with a lineup this week in MME because I just think it's a good value of Love, Reed, Wicks, and Kraft if he rolls, and just say, look, I'm hoping that, Love has that 350, 3-4 touchdowns, and those are the three guys that get it, because I think they're all really good, like good values for their ceiling. I mean, I think their floors are all decent. Wicks is probably the most dangerous of their floors, but Arizona's defense sucks. I've been trying to tell people, I know it looked like maybe they're a little better. They're not. We all know that Mike Evans has a blood feud with Lattimore. It has not gone well for him. But
ding.
My man Godwin, though, on the other hand, I like that at 6,900. The Saints have really struggled with slot receivers. No surprise because of that. I think it's either second or third in yak to wide receivers.
Taylor's been a lot better this year, though. Right? He plays a slot. Lante Taylor.
Yeah, but you still think
he's a big play. He's a big play giver upper, though.
And I think that's what I would concern about is Godwin has done such a good job after the catch this year. They're really struggling with that. And again, Lattimore has Evans' number. And there's very few people, even great corners, that can say that. But Lattimore does. And to me, that makes Godwin and Auden both like great plays this week, because I just think they're going to get more volume than normal. And again, that's really the kind of positions that the Saints team struggle more. They struggle more with tight ends. And again, they really struggle this season with slot receivers. I think they're 5th in fantasy points allowed right now to receivers in the slot. And I know Joe said it last night. They're like 6th or 7th in yards after catch to wide receivers. And again, Godwin, I think, is 2nd or 3rd right now among wide receivers in yards after the catch. And then this 6,000 range, like just shoot it into my veins. Flowers, McLaurin. I really like Deontay if he plays. The issue with the Falcons, we can't get pressure. And we've seen if Andy Dalton has time, Andy Dalton's good. We've seen that Deontay Johnson, again, if he has time, he's going to get open. And I think the Falcons are going to score points. And I think that if Deontay is healthy and plays a full game and it goes away, I think it will with the Falcons up. You can see a monster target number and a monster reception number for Deontay. And then it's just all about, does he score a touchdown? So he has, a 20, 30-point game. But I think his floor is 15 to 20 points. I really do.
It could be interesting there, and nobody's talking about it. I think I might be the only person in the entire world talking about it, because we know how bad.
Breaking news. We need to get the breaking news, sign and noise for next time. All right, go ahead. I'm ready for this.
I touted him on the waiver show a little bit, but if Deontay Johnson doesn't play, if they want to just totally swap out Jonathan Mingo, Jalen Coker.
Ooh,
let me tell min price 3K wide receiver from Holy Cross, ran 64% of the routes when Xavier Legette left the game with a shoulder injury. He's banged up. They're going to have to pass to somebody. He was pretty efficient, 4 to 68 on all 4 targets.
I'm writing that down.
Yeah, at the very least, he's interesting. He's a pure slot guy. So that's kind of what you have to bake into that. Mingo's been playing the slot for the Panthers this season. But
Falcons, by the way, not good against the slot. Just FYI. And again, Dalton scares me this week because we can't get pressure. And this is what happens when you take Bijan Robinson over Jalen Carter, when he's just sitting there at number 8 and falls into your lap. I believe it's 31st in average time getting to the quarterback. We're 31st in sacks. And I believe it's 32nd in pressures. It just makes me sick.
Yeah. And I'm just going to tell you right now, the end of my lineup for Kings Classic this weekend features a returning Jalen McMillan and Jalen Coker. That's because I have Chandler on bye, Waddle on bye, Addison on bye, Juju on bye. it's dark times, and JJ Zacharyson, I'm so sorry that I have to play those guys against you, but we're just hoping and praying that I can at least make it a manageable loss in Kings Classic. But yeah, I am actually, people will say that and not have any skin behind it. I am putting my chips in on Jalen Coker this week.
I like it. I really do. Because again, I'm one of those people as MMA. I'll do this in cash, which I know Dave Eddy thinks this makes me insane. But when it gives you that much flexibility, and the way I look at it is, if he scores 9 points, because all I'm looking for in cash lineups is 3 times their salary. If he scores 9 points, I am thrilled. If he scores 7, I'm very happy. If he scores 0 at 3,000, it's not going to kill you. If somebody's 5,000, that does kill you. 3,000, you got so much extra money everywhere else that, sometimes to me it's worth taking the risk when, especially a guy that has the kind of upside he does. All right, so George Pickens has seen at least 7 targets now in 4 or 5 facing the Raiders. Calvin Ridley facing Indy, who has been destroyed by outside wide receivers. Shaheed has been so good. Tampa, bad versus wide receivers, but we got Rattler. All of those, I could see them having monster games. All of them scare the bejesus out of me for different reasons. Which one would you go with out of those 3 guys if you had to go with one?
That was Pickens. That was who? Pickens,
Ridley, and Shaheed. They're all kind of in that same price range, 59, 57, 56.
Oh, man. I think I'd go with Mr.
Poo-poo
Snap
platter.
Management. I think I'd go with Mr. Snap Management, George Pickens.
I like it.
It's but the matchup is there. Like, that's all set up, and it's just literally, I don't understand it why they're treating him like Kawhi Leonard at this point. It's just no other team does this though. Like, no other NFL team does this to a top wide receiver. You don't see Justin Jefferson getting 86% of routes in a back and forth game without injuries related or anything. They're not snap managing Deebo Samuel. Like what are we doing? But I like his matchup way better than Ridley and Shaheed. I mean, Ridley is fine, but obviously the quarterback's an issue. I don't even know if anybody can get him the ball. That's the thing. So Shaheed, obviously with Rattler, that's another story entirely. But yeah, I would take Pickens.
The best value on DK this week, Darnell Mooney, 5,300. Explain this to me.
I was going to say either him or McLeod.
23 receptions. He's been targeted 37 times the last 4 games. Most of any pass catcher. Again, Drake London's huge target share. He's averaging in the last 4 19 points per game, at least 14.6 in 3 or 4. The Panthers, 6 most passing plays of 20-plus yards, 2nd most of 40-plus. Mooney has ran a route on all 100% of Atlanta Falcons passing plays this year. He has the 5th most deep targets among wide receiver. Again, I think I said this earlier, at least 1 reception of 24 yards or more, 4 straight. And this Panthers D has allowed 12 different pass catchers this season to catch a pass of 20-plus yards. I really, every once in a while, I'm just baffled when DraftKings doesn't raise someone's price more significantly when they go on a heater. And Darnell Mooney being 5,300 with this matchup, he is in right now every cash lineup I have. The volume alone warrants it. And then he's also been very effective with the targets he's getting.
Yeah, and it could have been more because he dropped that one ball that was tailor-made from the 4th quarter. That was we had the whole Darnell Mooney game, and that was the thing we remember is him dropping that 3rd down. But still, you can't shake a stick. It's 16 targets, 9 for 105, 2 touchdowns, a total of 24% target share in the season. For 5,300, that's a veritable bargain. You almost have to lock button him in to your lineups. But I would also argue that even Ray McLeod is still a screaming bargain.
Keep cashing parlays off of old Ray.
For the amount of opportunity he's getting, at his price, 4,300. You can't get that at 4,300. You can't get what Mooney's doing at 5,300. But yet here we are. You can. That in Atlanta and Carolina. That's a game that could certainly shoot out too. Like their over under is what? Where is he here? 47. Like that's a sneaky game that could shoot out there. I mean, 47 is like the best on a lot of weeks as far as an over under, and that's like the fifth highest or fourth highest.
Falcons defense is bad. Like I've been saying it all year. The offense is starting to, I think, really become good. They've just figured out we're just going to throw it a lot. I mean, that's what Kevin O'Connell did in Minnesota, and that's what now the Falcons and Raheem Morris are starting to do in Atlanta. Again, 75% of their plays the last 2 weeks, games that were competitive from start to finish with the Saints and Panthers, they threw it 75% of the time. So, this range in 5K range, Tolbert, obviously extremely intriguing. You're talking about, Lamb, there's the discount guy getting the big targets, but Lad McConkey is the guy I love in this range, 4,900. And I know you're going to go, well, wait a minute. Denver's, really difficult. And what I love is you get that, what is it? The second, the number 2 defense versus wide receivers. But I mean, Lad has just been a monster. 28% target share in 2 games with 70% plus snaps, 7.4 yards after catch. Again, a touchdown. And then the big thing for me, Pat Surtain guards outside wide receivers almost exclusively. Lad, 60% of his snaps are from the slot. And this Denver's run defense has been a lot better, which is insane because remember, they gave up 5 touchdowns and 5,000 yards to the Miami Dolphins last year. Led the league in rushing yards allowed, and they've been much better. I think Lad at 4,900 is a really good value play who, again, because of Patrick Surtain, I don't think Quentin Johnson is going to be able to, do anything. And that's just going to mean more volume for Lad, who's already seeing a good bit at 4,900. I like him, whether it be cash or MME.
Yeah, it's just tough for me especially with the Chargers guys, because in all 4 games this season, the Chargers have not gotten up to 200 air yards as a team. Their highest in the last 2 weeks have been 191, and that was in week 3 and 4. So as far as it's really going to have to be like PPR scamming and a lot of compiling to get there for Lad McConkey. I do like McConkey. If PS2 doesn't travel, which it sounds like he doesn't, he plays outside almost exclusively, then I could see a world where McConkey does get there. But I do think just the way the offense is running now, the way they're not throwing the ball downfield, that gives me some pause in putting McConkey in my lineup, just because I get it on the Harbaugh side. I don't get it on the Herbert side, where you have this quarterback that can be hyper efficient, that can throw the ball downfield, and you're cutting him off with the legs.
Yeah, I mean, Harbaugh is going to hardball. I just want to give 2 other guys, and you can close out with any cheap ones you want to, and we'll move on to tight end. I do like the Patriots, whether it's Demario Douglas, 4,400, or Jalen Polk, I believe, at 36. Douglas is the safer play. When he's seen at least 7 targets in the last 2 seasons, he has scored double-digit points in all of them. That's 6 games. Every one of them at least 11 points or more on DraftKings. But Jalen Polk, again, you were talking about it earlier when we were talking about May. He's starting to see the field. I think both of us are very high on his talent. One of our favorite, late round receivers from this year's draft. And I think Drake May is going to be good. And I like it when it's a rookie receiver, a rookie Q. They're kind of coming in together. They're on equal footing. It would not surprise me at all if right off the bat, if Polk plays the amount of snaps and runs the amount of routes he did the last 2 games, he leads the team in receptions, receiving yards, or even scores a touchdown.
Yeah, that's exactly where I am with the thesis on Jalen Polk. This is the future of your offense. Obviously Drake May, you spend the 3rd overall pick on. Jalen Polk, 2nd round pick, pretty high. I think it was number 37. You were clearly expecting these 2 players to be the bulk of your offense going forward. So getting them on the field together, letting them just kind of develop a chemistry. We know they've probably done that, since rookie camp, but now we're going to see it in a game for once, and we're going to see where they are. And, that can be kind of the litmus test of where are we at with Jalen Polk as far as this offense taking another step forward, because we've known the Patriots to be just boring unathletic, especially from the wide receiver, especially from the perimeter. But Polk can add some juice. I definitely like that. And I definitely, putting some emphasis on getting him. I want to like AD Mitchell a lot more because of the whole Pittman thing. Maybe, he was supposed to be on IR and now he's starting. Like, does that mean we're going to maybe get a limited route share out of Pittman? That could be a thing. They made a very specific emphasis to get AD Mitchell involved, whether they gave him a rush
They've
attempt.
been talking huge about, and like their coordinator keeps saying, like, this dude's special, just wait, be patient.
Separation, the average separation score on fantasy points, he's the number one wide receiver.
Great ass.
He threw a pass for 24 yards last week. He had a 50, I believe it was a 58% targets per route run. He had 7 targets, I believe, on like 13 routes or something stupid like that. They gave him a pass attempt, they gave him a rushing attempt. Like, they're Xavier worthying him. They're giving him every opportunity to be involved in the offense. And with Pittman, it was now Anthony Richardson. I don't know if that gets curtailed, but I think some of the upside gets lopped off because they're going to probably involve Alec Pierce a bit more with that. So that's where I lie there. But at 3,900, that's not a bad like stab to bake. Obviously, Polk is 3,600. As far as like late guys, yeah, there's not much else I like other than my Jalen Coker at 3K.
I like that. Oh, trust me, I wrote that one down. Before we move on to tight ends, another question. Pickens, Tolbert, Amari Cooper, already have CD and Ferg, high dollars. You talking about waiver? I'm confused.
Or is it like a high dollar league?
Oh, maybe it's high dollar league. Is he asking which one to start? I'm assuming.
I mean, I know you have CD and Ferg. I mean, you can completely lock down Dallas's offense. Well, yeah, I mean, we do think this could be a shootout. Odds makers certainly think that as well. It's a matter of how you feel about the snap management aspect of the Pittsburgh offense and whether their game, even though they're going into Vegas, whether that's going to be a competitive game. I think if that's the case, if it's not a competitive game, you might see Pickens not on the field that much. If they're already going to take his snaps off for no reason, and then you give them a reason to, if that game gets out of hand, then it's certainly not great for any fantasy, aspect. But I mean, with Cooper though, I still think I'd take Tolbert. Like, what do you think? I think I'm still on Tolbert just because the offense is condensed enough now. We know it's a good environment.
Yeah, I mean, I think Detroit's going to smash it down Dallas's throat, and Dallas is going to get in another game like they've been in basically since, I think, week 2, where they're just sling. And to me, if either of those guys had higher sins, like Pickens, I guess, technically could go off. But to me, by playing 3 of Dallas's guys in a game where, let's be honest, Detroit gives up a lot of passing yards, it almost guarantees that one of them for sure is going to go off. And there's a good chance 2 of them do. And I think that you would feel better that's literally the 3 top passing options this week in Dallas's offense.
Yeah. Even if you get 2 of those guys going off and then like Ferguson goes like 8 for 50, that's still 13 points full PPR. Like, that's still really good.
Completely agree. All right. One more and then we'll get to tight end. Daniel or Fields with Wilson healthy. I don't think they're moving to Wilson. I think this is Fields' job. I know Jones has been incredible. I'm still going to lean Justin Fields. Again, only 4 QBs averaging more points per game over the last 3 than Justin Fields, and the Raiders' defense not very good, and the only back that they have is Najee Harris in quotations.
Yeah, I think it would take a monumental collapse for Fields to lose that job, which, let's be honest, it's a non-zero chance.
Oh no, for sure.
Happen.
I'm not like that, but I do think it's his job to lose. Like, he's got to really lose it because he's done, I think, what they want. He hasn't been as aggressive as he was in Chicago. He's protected football. All right, tight ends. I want to use this time to be like, hey, Keith, every once in a while we get something right. There's a clip on my TikTok from the summer that's at Keith Fleming DFS. I went on my buddy JJ Schultz Dynasty show. And one of my hot takes from his Dynasty show for this upcoming season was Brock Bowers was going to be tight end number 1 in fantasy this season. And they kind of looked at me like I was crazy, and I get it. I'm not going to make the whole case again, but Bowers is an 18-year-old, was the best pass catcher on a very good Georgia Bulldogs team that was low. I just knew the talent that he was. Bowers among tight ends, first in targets, catches, yards, PPR points. And oh, by the way, his splits with and without Devontae Adams are outrageous. I think he is such a good flex play this week, where if you want to double tap tight end, you are getting, again, because we know Adams is out, a guy that is going to get peppered with targets for 6,000. And if you look at the receivers, say 6,000 and below, or the back 6,000 and below, I think it's the best value this week. So I do want to mention him. Do you want to talk about Tucker Kraft? Because God almighty, is this guy looking like Gronk Jr.? I know he's a little banged up, but I have loved watching him rumble. You talked about him a lot this summer on the best ball drafts. You and Stacy both did. Man, like, kid's really good.
He is really good, and he's absolutely dusted Luke Musgrave. Luke Musgrave obviously, hasn't played in a few games, but placed on IR. But the thing that worries me about Kraft is, especially with Dobbs coming back, especially with if Christian Watson comes back, like, that just adds more mouths to the offense. While the offense is going to be in great shape no matter what with all those guys back, I mean, you still that puts Kraft in a tough position, because obviously, for DFS, it's a lot different than in like redraft, where you have him and you have to start him no matter what at this point. Like, you can't just drop Tucker Kraft because Romeo Dobbs and Christian Watson are coming back. But for like on the DFS slant with that, he could be a lot lower owned, so you can get some leverage with Tucker Kraft. So basically, I think it's more of a play of you're really hoping for that touchdown versus him compiling volume. At 4,800, I don't know if I mean, he's like the same play as Jake Ferguson right now, like, in that respect.
Yeah, no,
but I do think Ferguson's honestly a better play than Tucker Kraft. I mean, it's $200 more, but even that offense is more condensed. Now you're adding a Kraft as low as like the 4th target in that offense.
Very fair. McBride, I want to mention real quickly as well, because Green Bay has had issues with tight ends.
Since the Reagan administration, man, you just go off, King.
We agree. And I think that he has not had that monster game. It's coming, though. Like, we saw what he did last year. And I'm somebody that I think, again, this Arizona defense is really bad. I think Green Bay's offense is really good, and we're going to start seeing that. I really do. I know that last week was a little bit of a struggle. You got to remember, Jordan Love is still returning from injury. They're getting, they've had some guys, not all the guys. This is going to be one of the weeks where they have most of the guys. Love is getting more. I think this Green Bay offense is going to be very, very good the rest of the season. That's really good for McBride, because if you look like last year, I know all of his monster games, Arizona was down, throwing a lot, and it was a lot of McBride. Freiermuth, when do we need to start giving this man respect, especially at the tight end position, where, I mean, just having 3-4 receptions every week is huge. With the wasteland tight end has been this year, 4,300. I think he's worth a look. But Cade Otton is the guy I keep putting in lineups at 3,500. He is all of a sudden, after a very, very slow start the first couple of weeks, 21 targets over the last 3 games, 16 receptions, at least 40 yards in every one of them. Again, 10, 11 points, and you're a tight end god right now in DFS, especially at 3,500. That is the guy I keep going to. New Orleans, every team they play pretty much scores a touchdown against them at tight end. So I really do think that was a very good play this week. And that's kind of the one that I'm leaning into. Where are you looking at for MMA? So I'm either, like I said, spending up and like double tapping where I have Bowers and McBride as a flex. And then I'm going with a Kraft, Freiermuth, but most of the lineups, it's Otton. And then do I decide to play one of those more expensive guys in the flex?
Yeah, it's greater weight with tight ends. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, like that middle section of like, I know I talked about Dalton Schultz. I like him a little bit more, but I'm still not. Yeah, but I'm still not super confident in like adding. I mean, Freiermuth is fine. Like Joku, we know is probably going to be keep being limited for a little bit. He only played like 51% of the routes.
I didn't know it was that.
Week.
Yeah, it was a low number.
Yeah, and then facing Philly on top of that, we know until we get Jameis Winston in there, I think we're going to be pretty much on like a hard avoid of most, if not all, Cleveland Browns pass catchers, offensive skill position players. I mean, Mark Andrews is persona non grata at 3,900. Hunter Henry's not a bad play either. If you're
that was one of the guys I wanted to ask. Yeah,
if you're a Drake May believer, I don't mind that. Like Zach Ertz, if you just want 6.7 DraftKings points, that's a perfectly fine play. Kate Otten, yeah, that's a pretty good play because he's going to be on the field 90% of routes. I did write about somebody, a couple days ago, Jatavian Sanders at, I believe that's 2,600. Running a lot of routes. Tommy Tremble out with concussion protocol. I don't know if Ian Thomas is coming back. I know he was on IR and was looking to come back, but I don't think he was taken off, or he's questionable. So he could still be being placed on IR, but I don't think that he's going to be running a lot of routes for that team. He's going to be like the blocking component.
He had the second most targets last week of all Panthers receivers.
Yeah, like Jatavian Sanders. I mean, that's a point where it's like a Theo Johnson adjacent play where you're just hoping that because he's on the field, he can just get some looks with a banged up Panthers pass catching group.
So you're right. It looks like Thomas is going to miss another week. It looks like Tremble is out. I mean, literally in the note, it says that if he can impress this week against the Falcons, he could have an opportunity to kind of, wrangle that tight end position moving forward. That's really
he's been out with that calf the entire season. So he was placed on IR, but he hasn't made his return back yet. But yeah, so Jatavian Sanders, I think if you're really punting tight end and you want to just take a stab at somebody that's probably going to be running 75 to 80% of routes, like I don't mind that one bit. That lets you save at the position to jam in as many Cowboys and Lions and Ravens and Commanders as you want.
I really like that. All right, defenses. Can you explain to me why we don't just smash the Bucks into, because Joe made a really good case. They're 2,600. Spencer Rattler. They've got 10 sacks the last 2 weeks. Todd Bowles versus a rookie QB making his first start. I mean, Joe said maybe you can make the case for New Orleans, but they're $100 more.
Tennessee.
That's not bad. He also said you maybe can make the case for New England. 2,400. Again, if you believe that this Texans offense is going to struggle without Collins, and again, I think if Mixon is out, that's more likely than if Mixon is back. Because I think that's the issue. They've either got to have Collins out there, or they've got to have a running back that can really do work. But if they don't have either, which obviously we know Collins is out, I think that's decent. I do like the Tennessee call. I originally was on Indy. They're just so expensive, 3,100, because basically if you look at it, when they play teams with a decent quarterback, they're bad. And they've scored at least 8 points against, that kind of bad range of teams with QBs. Of course, I say that. They only got 3 points against Malik Willis. No offense to Malik Willis. The Titans, though, are interesting. Do you think, regardless of who starts, Richardson, Flacco, you just think, or is there one that you would lean into that more if one starts over the other?
I mean, I'm off with the Titans if Flacco's starting. If Richardson is starting, I like the Titans just because if we get the anti-efficiency game where Richardson is just completely off target, like he was, I think it was like week 2 or whatever. But give me the Titans in that case. If Anthony Richardson is off his game, that's kind of the thesis of you're hoping he gets a couple interceptions, maybe a fumble. Obviously Jonathan Taylor's not playing. So I think that's a good spot for Titans, especially at home.
Multi-sacks in each game. They haven't allowed more than 24 points against this year.
Jeffrey Simmons is coming back too.
Yeah, I know. I think that's a really good call. Any other?
The Bucks with that.
The
Bucks with that is that those are the two plays, because anything else lower, like there's no like punt defense that even feels good to click and be like, gonna go with the Patriots this week. But Patriots are like okay, like I guess, But like any of those games, like Commanders doesn't feel great. Obviously the Lions and Cowboys are in there at 28 and 2,900. Those don't feel great either, based on how we've been talking up the pass catchers. But yeah, the Bucks, for me, it would probably be very heavy on Bucks and Titans.
All right, you want to build a lineup?
Yeah, let me get this pulled up here. Let's build a winner, shall we?
And how about Joe Matz taking you behind the scenes? What a dick. I sent Kevin a text just letting him know that, hey, Joe is big timing us tonight out in Seattle, probably hanging out, getting stoned with his buddies. And it would just be the two of us tonight. And Joe's response, if you guys build a lineup with someone who throws less than 5 touchdowns, I'll be disappointed. What a dick.
It's all right. We built one with a guy that threw 4, so close enough last week.
He's going, oh, you freaking Joe Matz.
What game you want to? I was gonna say, what game you want to stack up here? Do you want to go?
You like the Dallas, Detroit, and I'm okay with that. If we do that, we got to have one of the Lions running backs. Which one do you like better, Gibbs? I think Montgomery. Do you want to go the safer one, or do you want to go?
Well, on the passing end of that, do you want to go Dak and?
No, I think like Dak and Tolbert, right?
I think you could. With the amount of cheap options, I think we could probably. I would like to see what we can do if we throw Lamb, Tolbert, and Ferguson in there.
Okay, I'm okay with that.
I want to get.
Then let's definitely go Montgomery for the back for Detroit because that saves us a little money there. And I mean, honestly, their points have been practically identical.
All right, so Montgomery saves us 500 there, and then Tolbert and Ferguson. Okay. And then we want to throw the Bucks in there just to see where we're at.
Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. I'm good with that. Let's go ahead and throw a Polk in there.
Perfect. Because
I think that's going to give us some flexibility where we don't even have to get too crazy with our other 2 plays.
That gives us 6K for running backs.
Move Montgomery into the running back for now. And then we might move them back into the flex. What back were you saying in this, like that 6-5K range was your favorite?
Well, we were talking about Eckler before.
I mean, what's his
Pollard is Pollard?
What? Oh yeah, let's do Pollard because that still leaves us with 6K, right?
Yeah.
Yes, I like that. All right, so now what can we do here?
Brock Bowers?
I love this lineup.
The stars are the stars aligning?
Jesus, that was too easy. We're gonna do another one just because of that. Go ahead and save that lineup. But let's real quickly so people know. Go over that lineup real quick, and then we'll build one more because that was fucking ridiculous. Well done, my friend.
That one's just like a
Tetris. All the pieces fitting perfect. Like this lineup too. So. You got Prescott with all of his weapons, which, again, we were just talking about that. I like that a lot. Obviously, in that game plan, we think the Lions are going to be running and the Cowboys are throwing. So you get Montgomery. We both really like Pollard versus just a putrid Colts run defense. We know about Polk's upside. And then be able to throw Bowers in there, man. Like that was really easy. Do you want to try to do the Washington game, but with Henry going off to start the other lineup?
Yeah, I'm looking right now. I'm just seeing if we wanted to take out
Pollard.
I'm just trying to see because we could go like Gibbs.
Oh, you want to do the double? Do it.
Darnell Mooney.
Take Pollard out, put Gibbs in. Let's see what we'd have to spend down to. I guarantee you we can find. Me and Joe talked about that last night. That I actually was considering doing that in cash. Again, they're 31st DVOA, and for 13.5, you can get, I think, guys that are guaranteed to score 30 to 40 points. Like, I think that's their floor.
Yeah. We'd have to figure it out at the flex. I thought we had enough for, could throw Ray in there and then spend up on defense or something.
See, I love Ladd there, man. I really do think.
Okay.
that this is going to be the Ladd breakout game. And I mean, he's actually for 4,900 done his job anyway. What is his points per game total? Because how many times has he gone? 3 times. Let's see here. Yeah, he scored 17-7, 7.4, 4.6, 14.9. And what I like is he's had at least 6 targets in each game. And I do think that Denver is going to force them to throw the ball. Like, I don't think that the Chargers are going to be able to run the way they want to. And Quentin Johnson on the outside. I would love if we could get up to Mooney instead of McConkey, but there's no defense we can put in then.
Right. And the only thing is, like,
could we go with Coker and then Mooney and see what that does? Or do you like it better with Polk?
I think I like it better with Polk, but I was going to say the 2v, it's all on the 2v2 of, do you like Gibbs and McConkey versus Pollard and Montgomery or Bowers? That's the 2v2. I think
for what we're doing, I like the Gibbs McConkey only because then we're literally all in on this Detroit Dallas game. And if we get it right, I mean, this is fucking gangbusters.
Yeah. And that's what you want. Just it's the onslaught of that game.
Yeah.
So do you want to build another one on the Washington?
Hell, yes, I do. And again, for y'all that were not listening earlier, again, I think it's very probable that this game becomes a shootout, very much like the Cincinnati game. My one concern is that Washington is really bad versus the run. Their offense has been so good. Teams have not been able to run on them. And we saw what Baltimore did versus Buffalo. And I forgot who they played the week before that, but they had those back-to-back games where after they started 0-2, they were like, fuck this. We're taking the lead early and we're feeding Derrick Henry.
Well, they played the Chiefs and the Raiders.
Yes, there it was. But who was the other game, though, because I know they torched the Bills. I just can't remember who the other, because I thought
Dallas. They ran the crap out of the ball against Dallas.
That's right. That is right.
In Dallas.
So do you like then going Daniels, McLaurin against that?
Probably would be the optimal play there if you're going to take Henry on that. If you're going to play the game script of if Derrick Henry smashes, then it's the Commanders having to come back. So I think that
because I think I got something I want to try here, because I know you feel this way as well. I think the Falcons-Panthers game has a chance to get real frisky. Do you want to do Hubbard, or do you just want to go like Deontay and potentially your tight end Sanders?
What about Chuba Mooney?
I love that for sure.
Chuba Mooney, and that still gives us some salary to play with. Like, what Mooney is 53. Throw a defense in there. Do we still want
Rachel? I'm okay. Again, going with New England if you want to put it in there, and then if we save the 200, or if you want to, I mean, it's whatever you want to do. Actually, I mean, Tampa probably is the safest one. We can go that last. We know what it is. It's 2,400.
Yeah. 2,600 is Sanders.
That was right. Yeah, 26. I really do. I may end up playing him because it looks like it's exactly what you're talking about, where both tight ends are going to miss. And again, he was second in targets last week. Can we get? Yes, we can. I want your boy Reed.
That's what I was wondering, but then I'm wondering what we can fit in at 47.
47. We'll figure it out.
We'll MacGyver this.
Trying to think who all was in that price.
McLeod's 4,300.
I don't hate that either.
That's back on that game. So we're playing the Panthers. We're playing 2 games basically.
Yep.
And then a one-off Reed and a one-off Patriots defense.
I really like it. Well, with McLeod though, if we want to spend up, we can get to your Titans, right? I think.
We can get to the Titans. Yeah, that works. That's perfect.
That was so scary. Those were
and that was quick too.
That was so easy. These are really good, man. And for those that, I mean, obviously, if you're listening, I know that there's 250 of you out there. If you're doing DFS and you listen to us two goobers ramble on for the last hour and 20 minutes, you know about DFS. But just so you know for sure, the reason I love these for multi-entry is, and it's why I'm good at cash and I'm trying to get good at MMA. This is what you have to do is you almost have to treat it like a captain's lineup where you got to pick the game script for 1 or 2 games and hope that hits and it turns into the shootout. Just like on a captain's lineup, you got to obviously get the captain right, but you got to build your lineup around. You think the Niners are going to get up and then Geno's throwing it a million times. So you pick a bunch of his different wide receivers, tight ends. I mean, like that's the kind of thought process it goes through. And both of these lineups, like I think those are the games. If I had to pick one I like more, I think it's the first one, but I actually think this is one that I could totally see like winning the Millie if everything broke the way, because Henry again was like the 12th most owned running back. And I am very concerned about them getting up. But the great part about that, what we have is even if they do and they run away, we know Daniels is going to be throwing and fighting to the bitter end. That's great for him and McLaurin. Ravens give a ton of big plays. And then again, the Falcons defense sucks. And so does Carolina's. And I really do. It would not shock me at all if that turns into a sneaky shootout. And then Reed for being kind of the standalone guy. Joe was talking about, again, 0.7 points, fantasy points per route run versus zone. That is outrageous. There's guys that would like that, yards per route run. And this dude is scoring fantasy points per route run versus zone. And this is the defense that runs zone. I think Joe said last night, the 6th highest rate in the NFL. So I really like both of these. You want to throw out the first one too one more time, and then we can kind of close this thing down. Which one did you like better out of the 2?
I probably like the Cowboys Lions too, but both are good. And yeah, just to kind of piggyback on what you said, I mean, look, with these lineups, it's the less things that you have to get right. You're not playing how many roster spots? 9 roster spots. You're not playing a 9-leg parlay. You are combining bets that you're making on a specific game. If a game breaks a certain way, you're going to hit most, if not all of these. On that, Commanders, Ravens, we're hoping that the Ravens get up because of Derrick Henry, and then the Commanders have to shoot out. And then Falcons, Panthers, we're expecting that to be pretty close on both sides, but with passing involved. And then the Titans defense goes off on Anthony Richardson, and Jayden Reed is a stud, which has been the case almost every week this year. So that's 4 things that you have to get right in a 9-spot lineup. You get those 4 things right, you're in a great position no matter where you're at.
And the other thing I love is almost all these guys. I mean, obviously, Daniels is kind of borderline. Henry is too. The rest of those guys, I bet if you looked over like the last 3 weeks, almost all of them have at least 3-4 times their salary, each one of them. I know Hubbard has. I know that Mooney has. McLaurin's on a heater. Like, these are guys that are consistently, and I feel like that their salaries are at a point where you're getting them all at a good level. And I love that Sanders call. That may actually work my way into some cash lineups.
Well, and the thing about Sanders and Polk, they haven't done it on the stat sheet, but they have all the opportunity in the world now to do that.
100% agree. Man, that was fun. In your face, Joe Matz. When you're not here, we build kick-ass, easy MMA lineups.
Those 2 lineups took like 10 minutes, if that.
I think last time we did this 2 weeks ago, it took us like 30. We got a question, and then we'll close this beast down. What is a wide receiver target I should be aiming for if I offer up Kamara? Wow. Do you think you could get Jayden Reed? Do you think people are still undervaluing somebody like Jayden Reed where you could potentially, because of the name recognition?
You could do that. The first name that came to my mind was Drake London.
Okay. So, I like that one too. Because his, again, monster target share the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, because Kamara is RB3 right now in PPR. So like you can aim for anybody, I think, outside of like maybe Lamb and Chase. And I think it's realistic. Especially with Jefferson. If you get like Jefferson, that depends on your strength of running back. But if you can like eat that week with like a couple lesser running backs, and like you say, you happen to still win, and then you trade a Kamara for like Justin Jefferson, then you're cooking with gas. But I think you can get anybody for Kamara at this point.
I'll go ahead and tell you a crazy point. I would rather have probably Drake London and Jordan Reed over Justin Jefferson the rest of the way, which I know that sounds insane, but I'm telling you, this Falcons offense, 75 pass attempts, 75% of their pass plays.
Been talking about it for the entire off season, man.
Yep. Number one wide receivers, right? And that awesome. Number one wide receivers were Kirk Cousins. And I know people were disappointed first couple of weeks, and now you start to look at it, all of a sudden, them targets are starting to add up for Drake London. And then again, I just think Jordan Reed is going to end up being the Packer that breaks out. Like, it's going to be, even coming into this year, right? Like, we were like, who's the Packer wide receiver you want? When most people, the consensus was obviously Reed because he had the highest ADP and everything, but it wasn't a huge disparity.
No, it wasn't clear cut like it is now after week 5.
If you look at the end of last year, we should have kind of figured that out too. Like, I know Dobbs had the playoff run, but for the regular season, Reed ended just killing it down the stretch.
Yeah, well, a lot of that was because Jaden Reed didn't really play outside that much, and that's a lot of the question with him. Like, we look at a guy like Josh Downs, like, we're not having this conversation with Josh Downs, even though he's a primarily slot only guy, but Jaden Reed is a guy that is being used. Matt LaFleur has really come into his own as far as a play caller, as far as a guy that can scheme up touches for players. And Jaden Reed is like his pet project. Like, he's scheming up runs for him. He's scheming up stuff that's with motion. And, the Packers are the top pre-snap motion team in the NFL right now. And Jaden Reed is the guy for that. So, that should tell you there's a lot of discourse about Aaron Rodgers and how he gets the audible stuff at the line, and he is very into reading the line and reading the defensive backs.
I thought you were going to say conspiracies, but
a lot of conspiracies too. Well, he might think that pre-snap motion is a conspiracy because he's never done that. And that was a point of contention between him and Matt LaFleur. And now we're seeing the Jets have already gone on to a second play caller in Todd Downing. They fired their head coach. Their offense is like stagnant because they're not joining the rest of the league and like what teams are doing that are winning using pre-snap motion. And, I think a lot of the too high safety stuff, while it's like valid, throw over the top. That's what Jaden Reed, that first catch in the first quarter, he pretty much mossed 2 players on the Rams for that one that set him up into the Jacobs touchdown.
Yeah, I'm tired of the Packers hitting all their wide receiver picks. They're turning into like the Steelers of the NFC.
And the quarterbacks, apparently, too.
Yeah, screw you guys. You got anything you want to plug before you get out of here?
Just my Rotoballer article I've got pinned on my Twitter account at KTompkins. Every single snap, every single route, every fantasy relevant player was talked about, especially Dontavian Wicks, who got a nice lengthy talk about offensive intent with that. So that's a very good read there. I'll definitely check that out. Otherwise, just everything on these fine shows on Fantasy and Frames. Of course, you have the Waiver show on Tuesdays. My waiver wire column as well comes out every Tuesday for the month of October. So check that out as well.
It's I was going to try to be like Kevin Talktober, but I fucked that up. Never mind. Scratch that. The totally co-sign. His weekly article is one of the best reads in the biz. Like, it is insane how much information you have in there, but it's a guy that loves numbers, info, etc. It's a great read, and I don't
spreadsheet socialist.
Yes, sir. And I do enjoy doing the show very much with you. I'm very glad that you joined us, and not just because Joe Matt shows up about once every other week. So I don't know if we'd have a show without Kevin this year, but it's been a lot of fun. Be sure to check out Fantasy and Frames Sunday for the Sunday morning show. Me and Kev will be back Tuesday for the Waiver Wire show. And wait a minute, I guess I should probably get to where I could play the music on the way out. But we appreciate all you guys, and we'll see you soon. Maybe Joe Matz will join us next week. Who knows?